welcome back to Date with the Divas. Thank you for coming onto our channel and watching our videos. If this is your first time, welcome. And if you are returning, thank you for coming back. And I know if you're returning, you have subscribed, hint, hint. You have clicked on that notification bell and you have liked our videos. If you haven't, come on now, get to it, get to it. All right, everybody. Entourage, grab your beverage of choice, please. And let's get on with it. Ms. Lava.
So, hey, Entourage. I am constantly, exploring, controversial stuff as it relates to uh, relationships and things of that nature. We talked about Kiki Palmer and her opinions on a woman making more money. Now, I don't claim to be a quote unquote religious person. I can't quote Bible passages and all that good stuff, but I do know a couple. And I know there's a Bible passage, about letting a man lead.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this post that basically talks about a man sets the tone of the relationship. And so what it says is a man sets the tone of a relationship and a woman reflects what he gives. If he's steady, consistent, and intentional, she feels safe, valued, and deeply connected. But if he's distant, inconsistent, or careless, she withdraws, questions everything, and starts to doubt her worth. A woman thrives in love, not in uncertainty. She shouldn't have to beg for reassurances. She should feel it in his words, in his actions, in how he shows up every day. Because when a man leads with love, presence, and stability, he unlocks the most loyal, soft, and devoted version of her. So I found this and I said to myself,
Self.
okay, what does what
You said I said to myself, and I said self.
said self um that does this ring true for myself in terms of in the past we've talked about the energies, the masculine and the feminine energies, and we talk about women, what's the word, being submissive to a man
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship, in a marriage, or whatever. But taking this into mind, you say, well, I am okay with, I guess, being submissive if I know where I'm going, if I know what I'm getting, and this person is willing to set the tone in terms of this is what I have, this is what I'm offering to you. I'm giving you this stability, this road of, I guess, greatness or goodness. Are you willing to come with me and trusting me in that this is what I'm going to provide for you? So I ask you, ladies and entourage, what are your thoughts on, after me reading this passage, what are your thoughts on, in agreement with, the man sets the tone of the relationship?
I mean, traditionally, I would agree. Like I would say personally for me, there are, as we've talked about before, there are some relationships where the woman takes on more of the masculine energy and can set the tone. But I think in this, it's talking about um, setting the tone of if the relationship feels trustworthy. And so I would agree, like if you feel like he's backing up what he says, you feel like you can trust him, you feel like you can let your guard down, then yes. If you do feel like he's a little shady, then yes, you do start to second guess things. I would say the question the worth, because he said if the man can't be trusted, the woman starts to question their worth or something like that. That would be different for different people, and probably for different people at different stages of their lives. If they're not secure, then yes, they are probably going to question their worth. If they are secure in their worth, then they're going to know, just like not as men as shady. They're not going to question their worth. They're going to question their relationship, and they're going to get out of that relationship.
Well, for me, I'm a feminine woman, so it's my natural instinct to submit in the presence of a masculine man. So, yes. However, I think you also have to have your head, you have to have your wits about you,
Right.
which is why I think it's important as women, even in submitting, because I don't know that you need to make him prove himself before you will put your guard down, because that's not feminine. That's not, it's going to be difficult for a masculine man to really dive into that if he sees that that wall is up and he has to prove himself before he can feel your feminine energy. But I do think to keep him at a distance until you get to know him, until you can see that it's safe before the submission is real and impacts your actual life, if that makes sense. Because I think sometimes women, we rush in because we like the guy, because he's saying the right things, because he's doing the right things. Then we kind of just, throw all caution to the wind and dive in. No, I think you can be in your feminine in the presence of a man, still keeping him at a distance until you really get to know him.
Experiencing and observing, right? Prior to throwing yourself into the wind, as you say.
Yes.
But I also think sometimes women get caught up in the stability aspect, and then everything else goes to the wayside.
What do you mean?
So if you want to lead with that, but most women are thinking, okay, well, fine, as long as he provides stability, then I'm good.
You mean financial stability?
Yeah.
Oh, I think emotional stability is just as important.
Most
Right,
definitely,
but that's what she's saying. I think they forget about the rest.
Yeah.
the rest of the stabilities.
Or you've heard,
because I
you've
think they
even
all
heard
come
it
into play.
preached. I mean, I think we talked about it way back when we talked about what was that show where that one guy, his wife had cancer or whatever, and it was like, he was like, she forces herself to have sex with me or whatever to meet my
Oh, Love
needs.
and Marriage
And
Huntsville.
yes, and it was like we were talking about how it can be like passed on in those areas that like, oh, well, that man is taking care of you. That man got a good job. He's a lawyer, providing that financial stability. And so it's even like your peer, your elders are telling you like, what else do you need? Who cares if you got a little something on the side?
Exactly. And I think people sometimes forget about that there are other stabilities that need to be maintained as well.
That are just as important.
This is important.
Yeah. It's a whole package. And like you said, well, all of you mentioned, we come with the representatives come up first, always.
Yes.
And so I'm not necessarily saying that the representative won't be the person. However, you have to make sure that this is going on continually. So just because today, tomorrow, and I don't think that that's a test or anything like this, but you just gotta, actions happen, I mean, when if a person has a, what do you call it? They're I don't know, have anger and things like that, it's going to come out. We mentioned this, I want to say like last week or the week before or something like this. Like some of these things will come out, so, but you have to just give it a moment. It's not a test, but just take a second, just take a beat, and just to feel out this person, to understand this person, understand where they come from, and even you, because what you may have thought you wanted is something different afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like you got what you thought you wanted, and that's not really what you wanted. So just take a beat.
And it might take time for the man to reveal what he's actually offering you.
Right. Sometimes people, they have this fantasy, this story in their head, and they're living out that fantasy based on their ideals, and it's not what's reality that's pressed in front of them. And sometimes it's like, oh, but I showed you who I was, but you misinterpreted or you changed the narrative.
But I do think, since we're talking about this, it is important, especially as Black women, for us to feel safe, confident, comfortable, and secure in our feminine energy and not have it be predicated on what a man is doing.
Right.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
That
yeah.
has to just be where we live.
Right, right,
Most
right.
definitely. And we need to make certain checks and balances within ourselves, and we design how we want to be treated at the same token. If I forget, making sure that everything is balancing off, if that's the correct way to say it. I don't know how another way to communicate that, but
Well,
just
because I think too, and maybe just as women too, at least speaking as a Black woman, you're constantly like, okay, I got to do this, I'm doing this, and I got to do that, I got to la 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 la. So because you have all these gottas, sometimes it's very hard to just be like,
Relax.
it be in the moment.
yeah, be in the moment and relax and be in that feminine energy. And sometimes it takes that switch, and just wait, just chill for a second, and that's what I think we have to, those are the moments you have to step back and just let it be, don't always, okay, well, he didn't do it the way I wanted, and I got to jump in, and it just slow your roll.
Or sometimes women think that they can change a man. Don't worry, when we get married, I'll change him. No, that's not gonna happen.
Or sometimes I think Antrice may have said it, that it is coming, but it has to run its sort of like its course. So like you may be waiting for something to happen, but in his mind, it's in the works and he's working towards that, but you can't wait. And you're saying, well, he ain't gonna do it. He ain't gonna do it. He ain't gonna do it. But he's in the works and he's about to do it, or he's trying to set the stage for it. And just like Joe said, you just need to just take a breath, be in that moment, and let it happen instead of trying to control that particular situation.
Right. And this is when I guess conversations come in, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you like? What is it, or just regular conversations to help you understand what this person likes, or what to explain what you're liking or what you expect and things like this. I mean, it's not like it's a quiz or anything like this, but sometimes when the conversation happens, then you're like, oh, okay, he's coming down the pike. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's when you understand, and then he can be like, okay, she gets it. She knows that I'm coming down, like
Exactly.
And kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, Joe, it's that calming down, slowing down, because our intuition is one of the most powerful tools that we have as the feminine. And understanding the difference between toxic masculinity and secure, healthy masculinity. Because a securely healthy masculine man makes you feel secure in his presence automatically.
Right.
You feel it immediately, all the time.
I think also in the beginning of the relationship, everybody has a mask that they've put on. You're putting in your best foot forward. You're making sure that you look good. You eat with the right fork, and you keep your laughter to a minimum. And as you get to know the person, you start to, or you feel comfortable with that person, or you're tired of putting on the mask, and you let your true self come out. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not exactly who I thought I was dealing with in the beginning. But
or just like Antrice said, you're dealing with, we think about the toxic masculine energy when there is in turn a toxic feminine energy as well too.
Right.
And some women don't realize that energy is just like, come on already. It's just like, give it a moment, breathe a second. Why does it always have to be the negative, or why does it always have to be like, oh, well, he ain't, why
everything
do we always?
10.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes the pause needs to happen. Sometimes you just need, as much as it is, what do they say? Breathe and count to 10 and see what happens there. And sometimes your words, sometimes it doesn't need to be said because it's going to happen.
Right.
Sometimes it's okay to listen to what he's saying and give yourself a day or two to take it in and process it.
Thank you.
You don't have to respond to everything.
You don't have to answer right away all the time.
Exactly. Sometimes you don't even have to answer. It's so not worth it. So not worth it. And people, the negative feminine, gets caught in their head and stuff and not recognizing what they're doing is ruining the possibility of something that could be good when you're not patient.
True that. True that. Because, and we forget too, like, especially when you are giving, and I'm just using the word power, but just understand how I mean it. You're giving this person this power, like this control, right? It takes a lot for them to be like, okay, just like, like you're getting into a car. It's going to take you a
It's
second to
trust.
be like, yeah, to build that trust. Exactly. So sometimes you just got to, like we said, just take a pause, because that person too, especially as the male too, it takes a lot for him to put himself out there. It takes a lot, to be like, hey girl, like
He's
talk
trying to get to know you.
exactly.
Exactly.
So
It's, the example that I'm thinking in my head is a student driver. A student driver with, a person that's teaching them. And the teacher's like, oh my God, this person is crazy, but I'm going to let you do it because, and then in the beginning, it may be a little rocky, but then you're like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make them more anxious. And then the ride is cool and it ends up. So it's just like you said, Joe, a level of trust that needs to, just for a moment and just keep it, zip it.
yeah, and it's conscientious. It's not something that just happens. You have to be conscious about it, like
And you have to be
intentional
intentional about
about it.
that pause.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just like, when you say, person about being happy, sad, and stuff like this, it you it takes, to me, in my opinion, it takes a lot to be happy,
You know what?
when things are going and all that stuff, so that's what I mean by it's intentional. Even in a relationship, it's intentional for you to just take a second, for you to allow this person to, you see them like, okay, you're painting the house and I would have started from this side of the room,
Why'd you go this way when it would have been quicker to go that way?
right,
It's taking us
just
And
20
just
minutes
not
out of the
saying it's
way.
being
Let me just sit
painted.
here. That's the
exactly.
But
hardest thing for me
sometimes,
to do.
but people don't
But the
realize.
point is, you getting a painted room, right?
Exactly. But sometimes people don't realize it doesn't take that much to be happy. It doesn't require that much. And we put so much emphasis on it. We're not recognizing that, just like you said, it's being painted.
Yeah, so you got to be
Just
intentional about it all, I think.
Yeah, it's very intentional, especially when you know better.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
thank
Don't
you.
worry, be happy.
Because we women, we do know better, y'all.
We do know better.
Like if you go on this freeway, we'll get there 20 minutes quicker.
And you, but
Exactly.
just saying.
Thank you.
Maybe
And
he wants to
we
take
knew
that
this
ride with
before
you and
Google,
enjoy
before
that
all of
time,
that.
Montree.
Right,
He
Thank
wants
you.
that extra 20 minutes with his
He
woman.
wanted that extra time with you,
Yes.
But I
making you
already
late for your
know.
reservation.
Thank you. But I already know on 13th Street that light is 6 seconds longer than the light if we go straight.
And I
But
already
it's 6
know if we
quality
win at this red light,
seconds.
all the next ones is going to be green. So
Can I
Exactly.
admit that is the hardest thing for me to do is to shut up in those situations? Why
And I'm just like
go
sitting there.
left? That's so stupid.
Exactly. Or like you're like when it's happening, or like even like when I dislike this so much when you're on the highway and there are gaps and the person in front of you is driving, is like, why are we behind this person driving so slow? I'm not telling you to
Yes.
speed,
You don't
but
know how
can
to
we just
change a
get
lane?
from behind this
Right.
person and just
And
and
drive
I'm
you're in the
told
slowly?
when
passenger
I do
seat
that,
and
I'm
you're
told
going
I'm
like this.
aggressive. I'm told I'm aggressive when
Oh
I do
my
that.
gosh, I hate it. And I'm like, why are we standing behind this
Val, you
person?
said you were told you were aggressive when you do that?
Of course. And when I say get on the highway, if you don't get on the highway, guess what? We will end up in the Bronx and not in Queens. And we need to go to Manhattan.
And that's when you just like, all right, I'm going to
Yeah,
sleep.
I know. But you know what?
Wake me up when we get there.
I'm my mother's child. Sometimes you just like, I told you so, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you?
Can I
Just
tell you
gotta be
guys a
quiet.
funny story about that?
Sure.
I was in Vegas with a guy and we were relatively new. Like, so I was still,
Yeah.
doing my thing. And we were going back to our room, and he got off on the wrong floor, running his mouth, da, 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 da. And I'm like, why did he get off on this floor? Why didn't the floor? But I didn't say anything. I was like, let me just beat a woman and let him do his thing. And so he goes to what he thinks is our room, and the key doesn't work.
Oh,
And he's
Trish,
like,
you should have stopped him before.
Because that would have been.
Not let me just beat a woman and let him bust into somebody else's room.
doing the most before that. So I was a little bit irritated with him at the time.
Oh, you was like, let me show you. I can show
Yeah,
you better
I'ma
than I
show
can tell
you.
you.
You know it all.
He was doing that George Jefferson man thing. And so I was like, okay. And so the key didn't work. And he was like, what the hell? I was like, this is not our room. He's like, what do you mean? I said, we're on the other floor. So we're walking, and he says, why didn't you say anything when we were walking like you guys said? I said, because, I figured you're the man. You knew we were doing. She's like, listen, I'm not that guy. If you see me going off a cliff, motherfucker, say something.
I feel like, I thought you saw it.
Oh my God.
We ain't doing no Thelma and Louise.
She's saying you shouldn't have been submissive at that time.
There's a time to be submissive, and there's a time to save your life.
Girl, you in danger.
Oh my God.
Entourage. So get up in the comments and let us know, does the man actually set the tone? Do we recognize that females do have negative energy as well, that negative feminine energy? Do we also recognize that sometimes just shut your mouth up
And go to the wrong floor.
I was saying, do we let the man lead us to the wrong floor?
You know what, Marnita? We found our way back. It was
Like it's Vegas, it happens all the time.
so we hope
alcohol. All right, y'all. Good night. Good night.
Good night.